recording. So, this is Ramjoo's Diaries, September 27th, 1922, a true prediction. Since Baba came from Ajmer on the 20th, the diarrhea continued to harass him, more or less till yesterday evening. Throughout last week, Doctor continuously kept himself by Baba's bedside till late hours in the night, and once or twice he remained with Baba throughout the whole of the night by way of company. In spite of so serious a nature of the ailment, Baba never took any regular medical treatment, but just carried on with some apparent quack doses or drinks occasionally throughout the illness. But strangely enough, just according to his prediction, yeah, let me turn the page.
Yeah, Eugene, we read this, I think.
Yeah, just this. I'm just overlapping the last paragraph.
Oh, but this is the first paragraph we read.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Let me finish this paragraph. He became quite all right today, exactly 15 days after the day he reached Ajmer. And so it was after such a long time that he gave the Mandali a song in his melodious voice to the accompaniment of drum and sitar today. The latter was played by Adi. Baba also sat for a snapshot, which proved very successful. So this next dream, Mayor, I'm not remembering it.
Yeah, I read it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
like
Well,
triangle. Let's do page down. Let us see. This one. Yeah, I read this one actually.
Uh-huh. All right. I remember this ruse of doctors to get out of working in
Yeah.
the playing field.
Yeah. Yeah, this one also I remember the poem, Gujarati proverb, which says, yeah, I remember this one too.
Hmm.
Yeah, Mahu was reading, I guess, this chart.
Do we read this?
This one I don't remember.
Okay. Well, why don't we start from Sanskaras then? Meher Daruvala, why don't you read just in case you run out of steam? Because I know it's late in Bombay, I think. No. Unmute first, Mayor.
Okay. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Sanskaras. After supper, Baba discoursed at length on the question of yoga, study and liberation. The important points remembered are repeated Herundan. A yogi, even if attains the highest yogic state in, in his study, does not reach freedom because there is still for him the sanskaras, meaning impressions. To finish up with sanskaras means the impressions left behind while doing any good or bad action. Even thought creates a sanskara. Talking, hearing, thinking, seeing, eating, sleeping, etc. In fact, even a subtle movements cause sanskaras or impressions, which have to be experienced without a single hitch. With mechanical presentation, unless removed away, root and branch by a master's grace or blessing, are present existence and all are related experience of pain and pleasure, virtue and sin about it are the results of our past sanskaras, or amal is, I don't know how to say it, amal is termed by the Muslims. The very breath we breathe, the eyelid we twitch, the finger we lift are all due to past impressions. Our present existence is the merry unfoldment of our past subtle impression in gross form. And again, it is our present gross actions that recreate impressions and so on. A good word or good action has its good result compressed in an impression, suppose in front of a circle, and a bad word or action likewise stores up a bad result in a similar subtle form. That is good actions in the life necessity acquiring a happier state in the next formation, and similarly a bad action in the present life brings about a bad result. In the same way, there is that tie which has not been disappeared away with in any case. Good actions bind a man with a golden chain is there. In either case, the man has not been set free. Yoga or other studies are good actions, and they give the persons a better chance in the next incarnation, but it does not set him free or give liberation. Ramjoo's diary, the Manzil. Therefore, to have liberation, one must neither have virtue or vice on one's credit or debit side, but it should be a clean slate to reach the state described in an Urdu couplet. We shall not go either in heaven or hell, but on the day of final judgment, we shall stand gazing at the face of Muhammad. And this is impossible to reach without the grace of the Guru. For a master, it is the work of a moment, though the vast and almost infinity impressions of a person may be likened to a heap of dry grass, which it is impossible for the person to clean out. Even the process of cleaning out without a master, that is through yoga, etc., means contracting impressions again in different forms. But this heap of dry grass is a work of moment for a lighted match, but which alone the perfect master possesses. The perfect master uses his match, but mostly for the members of his circle only, and thus at the right moment brings them to his own level in less than a second. Okay, less than a second. But those, can you put it down, please? Little, yeah. Those who 1 minute. thus right moment them to his own level in those than a second. But even those who have no direct connection with a perfect master can derive the greatest possible benefit merrily. One moment, half a moment, and even half of a moment, it contact with a perfect master, then 10 million of your sins are washed off. October 5th, 1922, a spirit. As soon as we had finished our morning bath and we were going to sit for repeating the Almighty's name, Baba told us that again he could not sleep overnight. The reason being, he explained, the noise of hammering the background by some in the dead of night. It is, he said, a spirit that always accompanies him nowadays, whenever and wherever he goes. It is the same spirit that Bailey had seen while he was with him at the hut in Pune. Maharaj has entrusted this spirit to Baba, which is said will also be seen by some of the mandali. Even in his bungalow, in that case, none should be afraid about it. When seen, while absolutely no fear should be entertained in moving about. Trip to Ajmer, the bungalow and compose in any time of the day or night, and Baba conclude that thus none should hesitate to move about the bungalow in the night because of this. Heaven and hell. When Baba had gone to Ajmer, he had sent me home for a few days along with the others who did not go with him there. At that time, I once came across my old friend Usman in the Pune Express one morning at Lonavala station, and in response to include a couplet from Sheikh Sadi's
Oh, you missed a line.
Yeah.
Uh,
Gulistan,
Go
which
back to the beginning of the paragraph, Mayor. You missed a line. Go back to at that time.
At that time, I once came across my old friend Usman in the Pune Express one morning at Lonavala station, and in response to my friendly overtures, some taunting remarks were flung at me. It included a couplet from Sheikh Sadi's Gulistan, which I couldn't remember while repeating the incidents to Baba. After my return at dinner time, however, Doctor told Baba that he had come upon the particular couplet repeated by Usman to me at the time, and it is reaching heaven Usman to me at the time, and it is reaching heaven. Following a friend is truly equal to going to hell. Hearing this, Baba said that Usman is 100% right in what he told Ramjoo. Paradise should be earned by one's own extension. It should never be gained by favor or by help of someone else. It should be deserved. To enter paradise without deserving it merely through favor or grace or someone is not only equal to but worse than burning in the fires of hell. Hence, so far as Usman limits himself to the meaning to this meaning, he is taunt you for the following me. Then he has ridiculously failed therein. Here, the question of heaven and hell does not concern you at all.
Thanks, Mayor.
Welcome.
Next, Mayor Kiran, can you continue?
Neither have I lost heaven, nor do I need to flee from hell. The call of the perfect master is supremely distinguished. I have held out to you expectations of something much higher than this dream of paradise and hell. By remaining with me, you hope to understand truth, that is God, and thus fathom the secret of the universe. This knowledge is impossible for anyone to obtain without the help of a master. Individual attempts in this direction are of no avail without the guidance of a realized guide. That divine poet of Persia, Hafiz, exclaims, "Without a guide, don't enter the path of love, as I failed hundreds of times while doing so." Continuing, Baba said, Maulana Rumi, whose Masnavi Usman is so fond of repeating, corroborates Hafiz when he writes, Priest Rumi would never have become Master Rumi if he had not become the slave of Shams Tabriz. One whose object is God, what does he care for heaven or hell? Hafiz aptly describes the feeling of such a one in this couplet. Since I see my friend throughout both the worlds, what do I care for heaven and hell and the spirits, etc.? Poor Usman does not understand what he himself speaks. To say and claim that the Prophet will lead or give all Muslims paradise is a beggary that beggars a description. His case is so helpless that instead of searching for truth for himself, even the question of paradise he leaves entirely in the hands of the Prophet. And at the same time, he confesses that heaven is to be earned or deserved, or otherwise it is equal to hell. To preach that which you don't practice is hypocrisy in its worst form. After purchasing the cycle, Asma still had a surplus balance of 50 rupees remaining with him. Half of this amount is kept in reserve to provide a treat to the mandali, and half was given to doctor by Baba yesterday to utilize in feeding and clothing the needy near Abdul Rahman Baba's tomb. Accordingly, Doctor and Slamson go out to carry out the instructions. They are also asked to take with them Mr. Burjorji Engineer, the author of a book called Karamate Khuda. While distributing the food and clothes, a chit was given him from Baba asking Mr. Engineer to accompany Doctor and Slamson wherever they went and see whatever they did without asking any questions. Mr. Engineer's strange case. This gentleman has come in Baba's contact since very recently. Some time ago, Baba asked him to relate his state to the mandali, when almost the majority of the party were present in the upper hall. Sitting in the middle of the hall, surrounded by eager ears and searching eyes, Mr. Engineer began his strange narration. With profuse recitations and quotations from different religious scriptures and literature, and with almost a throbbing voice, he tried to give us some idea of his queer position, when at times even tears were rolling down his cheek. A gist of his repetitions is as follows. Some years ago, I was working as an engineer drawing a fat salary. Somehow I tumbled into the spiritual line And of course, with great efforts, I managed to reach a stage when I could easily foretell important events, and even at times could get my prayers fulfilled simply for the asking. In fact, my prayers and appeals could provoke a perceptible response from the unknown. This went on for a long time until I began to misuse my supernatural achievements by helping the public at large with my foretellings in a professional way in connection with Khotan and other gambling. At first, the work looked to pay very well, and I did not find the necessity of carrying on my service, so I left it and paid more and more attention to the new business. To matter horror, and here Mr. Engineer cried like a child. I very soon found out the divine gift had escaped from me. Now, in spite of my best efforts, far greater than my original attempts, I cannot still regain the state. In vain, I am crying day and night, but there is no response from him. Leaving aside the mercenary benefit I derived, which now I don't care about and will never indulge in. I really cannot describe the intense joy and bliss that I felt when in communion with him. Although I have lost the treasure, still I can feel and perceive things unseen and unfelt by ordinary human beings, and hence I need no introduction or explanation about Meher Baba, in whom I find a very extraordinary manifestation of divinity. I firmly believe that Meher Baba can restore me my lost treasure in the twinkle of an eye if he wishes. He is very great indeed. A noisy car. In the afternoon, Baba, Gustaji, Adi, and Behramji went with Munshi in his newly purchased second-hand car, Dedion. It was purchased for only 100 rupees or so at Naval's recommendation that the car is a steal at that price. Since then, 2 or 300 more are spent to make it go. It did go after all, and even climbed the Malabar hill, but with 2 or 3 hauls by way of rest and for tinkering with the overworked engine. As we came to know from Baba, the ride was far from pleasant. The old engine would make such a screeching and spluttering noise, accompanied by an occasional fut from the exhaust, that it necessitated the occupants to carry on conversation at the pitch of their voices. So much so that when the car once came to a dead stop, Munshi was heard to impart the driver some instructions to the pitch of his voice, which almost amounted to shouting in the ensuing silence. Doctor and Slamson came back from Abdur Rahman Baba's tomb at about 9 p.m. after distributing the food and clothes. A letter is received by Baba from Asar with a few copies, a specimen of the poster advertisement of Maharaj's biography today, which was gone through by doctor before retiring for the night. October 6, 1922. Baba ill again. In the morning, Baba said he slept for 3/4 of an hour and felt fresh today. Although he has again been passing stools about 7 to 8 per day since the last illness. From today, the diarrhea increases considerably. By 10 o'clock in the morning, Baba had had about 4 stools, which strangely enough are copious and healthy. Some complaints as to the unclean state of some rooms in the bungalow being received, Baba ordered doctor to write the following note on board. All should dust and clean the rooms daily, as well as the portions of the open passage opposite to the respective rooms. Otherwise, a serious disease shall enter the premises. 6/10/22. Sign made one. A simple mistake. At dinner time, Baba told some of us to water the newly prepared playground after 12:30 p.m. Today being Friday and the Muslims being strictly enjoined since the beginning of our contact with Baba, never to miss the Friday prayers, even if our lives be in danger at the time. We were rather in a dilemma to go for prayers as per the old order or water the compound according to the latest instructions. At last, not being able to decide, we approached Baba himself for solution. Upon hearing difficulty, he simply reprimanded us for not having sufficient common sense to understand that there was really nothing like an enigma. The watering is to be done after 12:30, and that means, of course, after finishing up with the prayers, which are ended by 2 o'clock. We were once again enjoined never to miss Friday prayers. The washerman, having exchanged some of our clothes with those of his other clients, as well as missing some, Baba took him severely to task, and at first dispensed away with his services. When the man kept on waiting in the compound, asking to be excused, Baba offered to let him remain in the bungalow and only to wash his and the Mandli's clothes in the premises and to do no other work from outside at the pay of 50 rupees per month. The washerman really fell in with the proposal, and one more addition is made in the Manzil residence today.
Thanks, Bear. Marvin, are you available? You got to unmute if you are. No. Mahu, could you unmute and continue?
Yes. Baba's page 85 from Ramjoo's diary. Baba's utterances. About 3 in the afternoon, Baba called doctor to chafe his body. While doctor was so engaged, Baba said, quote, "Doctor, may God help you." On hearing this, doctor laughed, and when Baba asked the reason of his merriment, the former said, "We generally find it very difficult to follow the drift of your utterances. Your words seem to have a deeper meaning than the denoted at the surface. For instance, it was only yesterday that you passed the remark that doctor looks very healthy, and particularly said that my neck had grown very thick and strong and low. It has gone very stiff today and pains very much." Then he added, "This reminds me of the oracles of Greece read in Greek history. Were you as cute and adept in oracular jugglery as you are now?" Baba, Baba replying, "In the negative." Doctor further asked, Baba replying in the negative. Doctor further asked, "Then how is it that some time ago you had told us that worldly knowledge, education, and cleverness in a person before realization remains the same after the realization too?" This was a quote from Doctor. Baba, explaining the point, said, quote, "What I had told you is quite correct. There are 2 kinds of knowledge: the worldly knowledge, or the knowledge relating to the material world, and the divine knowledge, which is acquired after becoming one with God. So a person having become one with God, when dealing with matters relating to this material world, his action and words reflect the divinity, capital divinity, in him, although no divine knowledge is spent therein by him. Hence, the utterances and actions of such a person are invested with a sort of secrecy and grandeur about it. But this is often lost sight of by worldly people. For example, a ruby in the hands of a rustic will not be really appreciated by him, but the same piece of stone in the hands of a jeweler will speak value. Let's remember that. Continuing, Baba said, quote, the person who has become one with God is able to make the best use of the worldly knowledge on the strength of his divine knowledge, which, however, is not drawn upon in the least. Hence, the difference between the utterances and actions of the ordinary human being and the divine personalities. Page 86. After this, Baba asked doctor to bring a little coconut oil, with which he began rubbing and massaging doctor's stiff neck and said, quote, hereafter you shall never suffer with a stiff neck, well, end quote. At tea time, the question of utilizing the amount of 25 rupees kept aside from Asma's surplus balance was discussed. Suggestions of a motor spin, cinema, and drama did not meet with the approval of sufficient majority. At last, it was decided all round to go to a place for a picnic where itidanda and kite flying can be indulged in freely. Vajidfar is elected to select a suitable site for the proposed picnic on Sunday next. Owing to a passing shower of rain, we could not carry out the evening program of sport in the back compound. Nevertheless, Baba asked us to play a few games of 7 tiles in the front veranda proper of the bungalow, which we did, much to the amusement of passers-by, a lot of whom collected out at the compound gates, from where they marked on the strange and queer behavior of the equally quote-unquote mysterious residents of the bungalow. It was indeed funny to play an outdoor game indoors. After supper, poor old Sayyid Sahib's case came out for discussion. In view of prolonged illnesses in his family, he had sent word to Baba a few days ago that his house had become a regular hospital. When he came this evening, Baba gave him a sound lecture, which lasted for about an hour on the subject matter of that very message. Munshi put in defense of Sayyid Sahib, he does not mean that he says it is his nature to grumble. Nature. On the word nature, doctors' question to Baba in the afternoon were the nature of a person changed or not after experience again came to be discussed. And Baba once again explained the subject as follows, quote, the nature of a saint after becoming one with God remains the same, but in a different light. Formerly, in the ordinary states, his anger, his curses, his strong language, etc., were for himself only, since there was egoism in him. Where there is ego, there is no God. And where there is God, there is no egoism. Hence, his actions and words in the divine state have no motive of egoism in them, but the special freak of nature possessed by him remains the same even after experience. I read this again. Here, Baba means the nature of a person, not nature. Hence, his actions and words in the divine state have no motive of egoism in them, but the special freak of nature possessed by him remains the same even after experience.
So he's let me just interject that he's saying the former nature of this individual was anger and curses and strong language.
Yeah, the man is in ordinary state. Yeah, when he is in ordinary state, he says. But when given an outlet through such moods, they do nothing but the greatest good to others. But when given an outlet through such moods, they do nothing but the greatest good to others. The following couplet of Hafiz carries the same meaning, but through another example. So Hafiz says, at one point I craved to see various things, but since I saw you, I did not desire to see anything else but you. Baba says, it clearly explains that it was ingrained in his nature to see different and various objects. But on seeing him, capital him, he, means Hafiz, now does not want to see anything else but him. Thus it is clear that the nature to see, italic see, is still there. First, he wanted to see a variety of objects, and now he wants to see God only. That means the desire of seeing remains the same, but undergoes a change, and that of the taking out of egoism. Likewise, the habit of anger and beatings, etc., ingrained in a person remains the same even if he becomes a saint. But a gigantic change, pronounce it for me, gigantic.
Gigantic.
Gigantic, very good. But a gigantic change takes place in action. It has no personal motive behind it. It is simply an impulse with divinity behind it. And hence, it is very beneficial to the receiver.
Thanks, Mahu. After this explanation, Baba began to play cards with Munshi and some others for about an hour when he suddenly became very excited and began abusing the Hindu members of the Mandali in general and Patel and Arjun in particular. The reason was that they could not eat up the vegetable that Baba had arranged with Chowdhury for all to finish up. While in this mood, Baba told Arjun that his household will be swept clean by a plague, by plague. October 7, 1922, the predicted plague. Today, news came by telegram that Arjun's brother's son had died of plague in Pune. The coincidence is very suggestive in view of Baba's uneasiness about the Hindu mandali last night. In fact, Baba had foretold the advent of the present plague that is raging hot in Pune while he was playing Iti Danda some 2 years ago at Banburda. The Kasbah party members, of whom many were present at the time, now recall the exact words of Baba, which they say were something to this effect. The plague would begin at Banburda, begin spreading towards Kasbah Peth, and then gradually affect the whole city. Besides this, Arjun said that Baba had given him a hint about these calamities a few days beforehand, but that could not, of course, take away his grief and anxiety. It is only a few days ago that his wife had died of plague, and now comes the news of his nephew's death. At the death of his wife, Arjun had managed somehow his emotions, and according to Baba's order, did not bring out the question of going home. But the subsequent death proved too much, and he begged of Baba to let him go home for 2 days. Thereupon, Baba gathered the whole of the Hindu mandali and told them that one member from the family of each of you will be carried away by this plague that is raging hot in Pune. And hence, those who want to return home should do so immediately. Otherwise, henceforth, none should talk of going home under any circumstances. With the exception of Arjun, all agreed to stick to Baba through thick and thin, while Arjun insisted on going home in any case. Baba vs. versus Gustaji. Hardly the matter of the Hindu party was decided when somehow Gustaji butted in, and then ensued an interesting parley between Baba and Gustaji on the subject of the latter's failure on more than one occasion to comply with Baba's orders to eat a certain quantity of food daily. It is reproduced here in the form of a dialogue to give an idea of what Gustaji can do if he gets in the talking mood, in which he often is. Baba, Gustaji, please take your food as soon as you feel hungry, irrespective of time. Don't tell me afterwards that I did not tell you. Gustaji replies, that is just what I am doing. That is creating hunger by moving about here and there aimlessly. It is the cup full of cow's clarified butter that I had to take at 10 o'clock that has done away with my appetite. I don't like custards and puddings in and out of the season. Baba said, don't harp about the same tune again and again. It is this which puts me out of temper. You must concern yourself with doing just what I tell you to do. It is because you don't pay attention at the time to what I say that you make mistakes. Gustaji replies, you know full well that I am doing my best to please you. Sometimes I am eating less and sometimes more, just as it suits the vagaries of my stomach. I cannot, however, understand why you force me to eat more against my will and wish. If I were to fall ill thereby, who is there to look after the petty and trifling affairs and matters in the bungalow as I do from morn to eve? Baba says, These words clearly show that you have a very poor understanding. If I cannot understand the pros and cons of an affair, if I ask you to do a certain thing, the consequences of which I am quite ignorant, then I am no master at all, and no earthly good can come out of your staying with me. Gustaji replies, I have come to you under Maharaj's instructions to follow your orders and listen to you in each and everything. And hence, I am staying with you. Baba said, and that is exactly what you are not doing while remaining with me. On the contrary, you want me to act in your own way. Hereafter, I won't tell you anything. You give me a program and I shall follow it. So Gustaji replies, if the situation were really like that, I would not have come to you. But on the contrary, I would have taken you to my house. If you mean to try me by such confusion, I don't see the necessity of it, since I have already suffered enough at the hands of Sai Baba and Maharaj. You are welcome to try the novices in line. Try the novices in the line. In spite of my seeing no necessity for it, I do things and work with others just to keep them company. Now, just when things appear to go on smoothly, every second or third day, you bring up some such matter and cause mutual annoyance. Such incidents damp my spirit, and I feel disheartened. Baba said, having such a grand connection with me, being actually my dark side, does it befit you to suggest that my orders and actions are at random with no meaning in them? I have not gathered the whole of the mandali to try them, much less yourself. Maharaj made me sit in filth after experience. Where was the necessity of it? Should I consider that as a trial in my case? I don't intend to try anyone. I only ask you to do just what I tell you. In so doing, you will help me in my work. Gustaji replies, I am always ready to obey your orders, and with a clear conscience, I can say that I have done my best till now. Baba finishes with, don't try to read my actions. You will never fathom them. Even if I offer you a cup of poison, drink it without the least hesitation. By so doing, you will ease my work.
Greatly, you will greatly ease my work.
You will greatly ease my work. What did I say?
You said it nicely, without greatly, which actually has the same meaning.
After this repartee, Baba came to doctor's room and asked him what he thought about this episode. Thinking a while, doctor said, a person, however used up he may be in this line, without experience, he is after all human. And as such, there is a limit to his patience and forbearance. Gustaji has at last spoken his mind. Oops. Baba said, conscientiously, Gustaji tries his best to help me, but rather in his own way, and therein makes the mistake. Else all can see that he is the man who looks after my own person and comfort from morn to eve. In the afternoon, glass powder, thread, cooked rice, and other necessary ingredients are distributed amongst the mandalay to prepare cutting thread for competitive kite flying and fighting on the day fixed for this sport. Gee, I wonder what they use cooked rice for in competitive kite flying.
Yeah, we need cooked rice to make it gluey.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, you guys are so smart. Wow.
Yeah, very
We
smart.
fly kites with the glass pieces and the cooked rice as glue struck on that string.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. The cooked rice sticks the powdered glass to the string. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, it's quite sticky. I think it needs to be probably cooked in certain way. Yeah,
Well, there
maybe
is
it takes
something
the
called
best.
sticky rice too.
Oh,
Yeah, there is a sticky rice. They Japanese use it for sushi. Okay, let's have another reader. Um, Mayor, would you care to read, please? Unmute.
I see Rosaline joined.
I don't think she's
Rosaline.
reading.
just
Okay.
ask her if she likes to read, otherwise Meher is good reader.
Yeah. Rosalie, would you like to read?
I'll read for a while.
Oh, great.
Horrible hammering. Great. Do you want me to read from in or horrible? Okay, I'll
From
start horrible since
horrible.
no one's up. Horrible hammering. October 8th, 1922. Bubba once again passed a sleepless night and was most of the time moving about the upper hall. While sitting for the morning prayers since the 2nd of this month, I could hear a great hammering noise somewhere in the premises in that dead silence when all the inmates were engaged in devotion. At first, I did not consider seriously about this disturbance. But when I found it emanating daily throughout our praying hours at regular intervals, I inquired of Gustaji the reason. To my great surprise, I was told it was Baba, who used to hammer his head on the floor upstairs. Well, he comes to suffer. Although Gustaji also gets up with the rest of the mandali, he is exempt from the prayers, and thus he is the only person moving about the premises, save for the kitchen department. Gustaji's explanation thus accounts for Baba always having a kerchief tied around his forehead these days. Although I knew, for reasons unknown, Baba at times in the presence of the mandali in daytime hammered his head against doors and windows, and consequently got ugly bruises over his apparently tender forehead. I even remember having actually seen Baba once one of the powerful impacts of his head. But this daily hammering of the head, as if it were a blacksmith's big hammer, only came to my knowledge today. This shows clearly that Baba is suffering heavily from every point of view throughout the 24 hours, in one way or the other. And yet, for all that, he is alive as electricity in the general management of the affairs, in keeping an eye over the conduct and looking after the mental and physical conditions of the Mandali, and even taking as keen and active share in all games and plays as the most robust and active amongst us. In fact, if ever he seems to be worried or anxious at any time, it is for the sake of someone from the Mandali who happens at the time to be out of sorts mentally or physically. Juhu. As per arrangement, Vajifdar has selected Juhu
I think she got froze. Maybe connection.
Yeah, maybe I will just read until she comes back and see.
Oh well, thanks, Mayor. But it's a good place to pick up next week. Yeah,
Yeah, that's good too. Sure.
because it's 11:29. We only have
Yeah.
yeah.